Well, I just don't think he will do enough in his negotiations, because what he set out to do was so low bar anyway that he's been tripping up over it ever since. What he should have been doing is setting out for the people of this country what sort of future he wants for our children, our grandchildren, a country that's, seeking prosperity, is strong in culture, it has an ability to seek freedom and the ability to be able to trade with the rest of our partners across the globe. And instead of going out there changing the fundamental relationship with Europe on that basis, he simply tried to pull the wool over our eyes with some things such as trying to change child benefits or some in-work benefits. And these are nothing compared to control of our own sovereignty, control of our own borders, or control of our own trade deals.
Dan Hodges, does Stephen Woolfe have a point?
Well, I mean, I think if he had convinced Stephen Woolfe, then that would be something. I mean, I think David Cameron's been partially successful. I mean, I think if you recall at the start of this process, we were expecting the cabinet to split over it. He's held the cabinet together throughout the negotiation process. He has, I think, demonstrated to the British people that if he's not Eurosceptic, he's Euro-agnostic. He's not going out to Europe, sort of looking at Europe through any sort of rose-tinted spectacles. But I think he has fallen short in a couple of areas. One is, I think he was hoping that the negotiation process would in a sense open the door to those MPs sitting on the fence within the Conservative Party to sign up reluctantly for the in-campaign, and I don't think he's achieved that yet. And I do think there's a danger that this constant debate over the terms of the renegotiation rather than the broader European picture has slightly played into the Eurosceptics' hands. And I think that the Prime Minister's got sort of, if you like, sort of caught up in the weeds of the European debate, and as he moves forward, he's certainly going to have to start to elevate the debate if he wants to be successful in the referendum.
Stephen Woolfe, was that your plan all along?
Well, I'd love to have said that was my plan for David Cameron to fail, so that we actually have the ability to persuade people that we should be leaving the European Union. What I think is a real shame for David Cameron is he came out and said that, he is Eurosceptic at heart, and then he should have been listening to the concerns of the British people. I mean, you've had business that says we're over-regulated by the European Commission that sets down the rules. That feeds in to the issue whether Parliament should have sovereignty over our own laws. Then you have the concerns about large-scale migration, which, you've got an inequality, and that treats European citizens more favourably than non-European Union citizens, and those who live here have low wages, or even job displacement in certain circumstances. And these are the concerns of the British people. He just hasn't addressed them. But what concerns me the most is that once we have this referendum, let's suggest that he wins. This isn't about a Europe that's just status quo. The European Union will then go into superdrive to try and push forward their consistent federation ideas of integrated Europe with a banking union. It will move towards single corporation tax. It wants to move to a unified army. It wants to change the VAT. And that's where we'll see this really move towards the United States of Europe.
Dan?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen a couple of contradictory arguments then. I mean, first, Stephen was attacking the Prime Minister for not listening to the British people, and then was painting this nightmare scenario if the British people, in Stephen's eyes, vote the wrong way. I mean, I think actually Stephen's illustrated one of the problems. I mean, to listen to the Eurosceptics at the moment, you could be forgiven for thinking David Cameron is going to return from Brussels and then impose this appalling settlement on the British people. I mean, David Cameron, let us remember, is actually going to hold a referendum. We are all going to have a vote. We are all going to be able to listen to the arguments. We're going to be able to listen to Stephen's argument. We're going to be able to listen to David Cameron's argument, and then we're all going to be in a position to form a judgment. And I think people on both sides of the debate actually sort of do at least deserve to give the Prime Minister a bit of credit for actually giving us the opportunity to resolve this issue once and for all. But as I say, I do think that we need to start to elevate the debate up from the sort of the micro detail of the negotiations into the sort of the big, broad, sort of fundamental issues that are going to be affecting us in what's going to be a very, very important decision.
Stephen?
No, I agree with Dan with this. I mean, I've always argued that what you have to look at, as I began with, is what sort of country do you want our nation to be in the future? And the debate about the European Union has been on this micro level. And I'm simply saying that from my experience in a short period of time, the 18, 19 months I've been a European MEP, then I have seen this progressive idea with other MEPs, the Council and the Commission, that wants to push forward an agenda. And those items that I mentioned about a European army, about VAT, about single corporation tax are part of the future package. And those ideas should be discussed in this debate, and we're getting it out, and thankfully we are. I'll disagree with Dan to the extent that I said that it isn't Cameron on his own that gave us the referendum. Don't forget, we pushed very heavily. It was the concern about UKIP rising in the polls after the European election, what damage we could do in the general election that forced his hand. It was also those within his own party that said he wasn't doing enough on the issue of sovereignty. But we have the debate, and that's what we need to talk about, and not, unfortunately, what he is discussing in a rather sham sort of deal, which would bring absolutely nothing to the overall fundamental change with the European Union.
Dan, what do you think the Prime Minister is going to come away with tonight, tomorrow, however long it takes him with the other EU leaders?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have to say, I mean, I like many other people, had assumed that you know, we would see the deal done in the next 48 hours. I mean, I think the sort of the footage that you've been showing on his arrival with the talk of you know, we need to get this right. We don't need to rush it. I mean, for the first time, I think it has raised the prospect of whether we may see a little bit more theatre from David Cameron. I mean, I think it's an outside chance, but I think there is just a chance that we might just see David Cameron turn around and say to his European partners, look, this is not a good enough deal. This is not everything I've been looking for, and you're going to have to come back and give me something more. Now that would certainly shift dramatically the terms of the debate. I'm not sure that would necessarily be the right approach for the Prime Minister, because, as I say, I think he needs to get out of this whole wrangling about the sort of the details of the renegotiation, get into the proper issues. But if he did do that, I mean, he'd certainly pull the rug a little bit out from Eurosceptics like Stephen, who are waiting to pounce on him and rubbish whatever it is he comes back with.
OK, gentlemen, we must leave it there. Thank you both very much. Unless you just want to come back on that one, Stephen Woolfe.
No, I'm going to simply be, you know, a wolf in a very warm coat outside the European Council tonight, waiting to see what he has to do.
OK, good to talk to both of you. Thank you.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.